Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Just Keeks, back with another brand new video. And today I'll be doing my spoiler review of episode 3 of Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender live action series. So, the last two episodes I kind of wrote down my thoughts on, but I'm gonna do this one just freeballing it off the top of my head, my thoughts and stuff on it. Um, so I am rewatching these episodes before I do these. Just the last two, I wrote down notes and stuff, but this one I decided not to do that. So let me know in the comments below after y'all watch the video. Do you think I should just write notes and just gather my thoughts like that? Or do y'all like it where I kind of go off kind of like with my free thoughts on it and everything? Anyways, with that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump right into the video. Alright, so episode 3, titled Omashu, starts off in the Fire Nation at Capital City, and basically this sort of introduces Azula's arc, or like what is her arc in this story for this first season. As we all know, if you watch the cartoon version, Azula wasn't in season 1, except for like one scene in episode 12, and then she was properly introduced at the end of season 1, and then she didn't become a major player until like book 2 Earth, right? So, of course, they've added some new elements with this new show, this live action series, and one of those is a storyline going on with Azula. So, the episode starts off with these rebels, Fire Nation rebels, who are like, they're against the war, they want the war to end and Ozai's tyranny to end, which makes a lot of sense to me because, of course, it would make sense that when there's a war going on like this, it's been going on for hundreds of years, there's probably going to be a few people in the nation that started the war who are going to be like, okay, enough is enough, let's do this. But here I think it would have been a little bit better if it was like a mix of like, not just, it seemed to just be like young people, it seemed to be just like teenagers. It would make more sense to me if it was a mixture of like young and old people and stuff. Anyways, Azula's there as a spy, and she tells them she can get him in the cat in the palace, and she does so. And their plan is to like kill Ozai and stuff. Of course, Ozai knows they're coming, and he literally burns them alive right in front of Azula. Now, Azula, she's a bit of a snarky teenager, and her whole story of this season is like her father testing her during her training and stuff, dr- trying to drive her to be better, I guess. And he sort of like uses Ozai is manipulating her. You can tell by just suggesting to her that Zuko um, is doing better and everything, and so she does not want Zuko finding out. So she makes a deal with Zhao. Her storyline plays in with Zhao as it goes on through the season that gets revealed at the end of the season. But as far like her character goes, um, I liked her. I think we need to wait till season 2, to see how vicious she can be. You can sort of see that evil like glimmer, like she already has it. Ozai's burning people in front of her, so she's a bit messed up. Now May and Ty Lee, they were great. The actress who plays Ty Lee is wonderful. I think she's got the personality down right. Um, I can't wait to see their action sequences in season 2 if we get it. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, honestly, this addition, Azula's storyline addition to the live action series is cool, and I like how they incorporate it with like her sort of like manipulating Zhao and everything. But honestly, if you just take it out and you leave, if they had just kind of kept this Zhao storyline how it is in the cartoon, it really wouldn't have taken anything away. Like adding this doesn't really add anything besides we get Azula early. Um, and then taking away doesn't take anything away from it. So this is like one of the things they add that you know they could have left out. But it's cool. It's cool seeing the character, and I hope we get to see her. again if we get a season 2 and what she can bring with regarding Zula's real ruthlessness. So, anyways, let's continue. So, as you could probably guess from the title, this episode where the gang arrives in Omashu, and they get in there like a different way than they do in the original series. So, the original cartoon, uh, Aang disguises himself as Pippin Stapakalas, Pippin Stapakalas, but Pippin blah blah blah, uh, something the third. Anyways, and so he disguises himself as an old man and says he's Guitar and Sokka's grandparent, and they get in that way. Um, and here they're getting in. Omashu is basically it's kind of like Boston say, I guess they're taking in refugees and stuff, and they meet a guy on a cart who tells them that they won't be getting in because Omashu doesn't take kindly to outsiders. So he offers them help, and Katara pretends to be this guy's wife, and they get in, and of course Sokka, sorry, the guy it turns out is Jet, and he's sneaking in some blasting jelly. They don't know this at the time, so he tells the guards to turn ups, and he refers to Katara as his wife, and then he forces Sokka into the role of his mute brother-in-law. So anyways, they manage to get in smoothly. And one thing I notice every time I watch this scene is the fact that okay, the guards check the cart and everything, and Jet tells him he's there to like deliver turnips or something. That like it wasn't a good haul this year. That's why he has like so few turnips. And he points out Katara. He points at Sokka. Um, Nobody mentions Aang, so it's clear like Aang's like hiding. Except when the guard lets him go, when you watch the back of the cart, you can see Aang clearly like covered in some burlap sacks with his hand just hanging out in full view on the back of the cart. And I'm like, Omashu guards, what are you doing? They're sneaking somebody in. King Boomy's gonna have to fire these people. But yeah, those little things. Anyway, Omashu, it's pretty much like how it is in the show. Um, it looks really cool. The delivery system looks really cool. Uh, they do actually use it like Katara and Sokka uses delivery system to get somewhere in like one scene, so we kind of do get that little moment of them like riding on the chutes and everything. So that was really cool to see. But yeah, they did a really good job at designing Omashu. I think they did really well. Um, one thing I want to say I love about this episode, this is the episode that has the cabbage merchant. Okay, and the cabbage merchant is played by the same guy who did his voice in the original series, right? So he's there, and I love the way they did because that's like I love the way they did his scenes. So because they built up to the my cabbages, right? The first time they run into him, he gets some cabbages knocked down. And he's like, "Hey, watch out for my!" And they all rush past him. He just watches them run away, so he doesn't say it then. I forgot what happened the second time. Oh yeah, the second time Katara was going around the market, and he was like, "Hey, would you like to try one of my?" And she's like, "No, thank you." And then she runs off, and he's like, "Okay, forget your lady. Can't have my cabbages. Think you're too good for my cabbages." I didn't say that, but he kind of gives off that impression. So then the third time, if I remember correctly, the third time his cabbage cart, if I remember correctly, it gets set on fire, and that's when he's like, it's all these cabbages all rolling around, burning stuff, and he's like, "My cabbages!" That was brilliant. I love that they did it like that. Um, and just at least me, the cabbage merchant was the smoking gun of this entire episode. Because every time they would run into him, like, oh, he's gonna say it. He's gonna say it right here. He didn't say it? What? Why are they teasing me like this? But I loved it, so I love that they did that with this episode. But anyways, let's talk about the Jet and the Mechanist storyline edition. Alright, so this episode doesn't mainly adapt from the King of Omashu storyline. That sort of comes into play in like the next episode. Here they adapt the storyline of Jet in the Northern Air Temple. So in this episode, they meet the Mechanist, who's named Sai here, and his son Teo. And Teo was the reason they kind of headed off to Omashu because Aang saw him like air gliding in the distance and everything, and so of course he thinks it's an airbender. And when he finds him, he's a little upset. Well, right after this, there's a huge explosion, and it's revealed that there's Fire Nation spies in Omashu and everything, and that they've been like bombing places and stuff. So the gang they help Teo because he kind of gets like caught up in the blast. Not like he doesn't get hurt or anything, but he's near it and everything. And his dad, shows up and is helping him. And we get the scenes of the Mechanist with Sokka, which I thought was really great, where the Mechanist basically tells him that he would make a great engineer, and that's one of the sides of Sokka that they really need to play out more, like in the show, is that his engineering mind. He likes to invent things, like we saw in the cartoon. Obviously he designed the submarines and stuff they use in like season 3, right, book 3. Um, so introduced that's great, and as far as like bringing the Mechanist over into like Omashu, here he's like Omashu's like designer. He helps with things and stuff and everything, make sure their system runs, perfectly. And so he works for the king and everything. Um, I'm fine with. Um, I think it's still good. I feel like when I'm watching the show, one of the things I did while I was watching the show is like, okay, is that character going to be important later on? And since the Mechanist, does return later on in season 3 with the submarines and stuff and everything, I think it's brilliant that they include him. Of course, with Jet, including Jet in this, he comes back in season 2. Um, so it would make sense for them to still have Jet in this first season. Um, because he can easily be cut. They can easily cut that whole Jet storyline out from season 2, but it has such a big impact on everybody that I don't see why they wouldn't include it. So I think the people working the show, they really watched not only the first season, but they watched like seasons 2 and 3 of the cartoon, and even like probably went and looked at the comics, which I'm going to talk about later when we get to those episodes that bring in elements from the comics. Um, to see like, okay, what can we bring in from here? What can we do, to make this all work? And I think it did a really good job. So Jet's storyline clashes with the Mechanist storyline. The Mechanist is still like giving information to the Fire Nation spies and everything. And so he's working with them to kind of, he still sees it as protecting his son and everything. And Jet is the one who finds out about this, and Qatar finds out with him. So Qatar gets mixed up with Jet, and they go after these Fire Nation spies, and we meet the freedom fighters and everything. And so Qatar has these scenes with Jet, who kind of helps her to get through her bending block. When she's trying to remember her mother, and all she can remember is her death. He tells her to think about like when she was alive, and that kind of helps her with her bending and everything. And during all this, so we have Jet and Qatar having their own storyline. Sokka and the Mechanist, they have a little thing going on. Little small storyline. Aang and Teo do some air gliding, go investigate a cave where they find barrels of blasting jelly and the burlap sacks from the turnip cart that Jet was using. So Aang realizes that it's Jet causing explosions. And so we have that thing where Sokka and Katara get into an argument. Katara believes it's the Mechanist that's the bad guy, and Sokka's like, Jet's lying to you and everything. And this is where I said like kind of like Sokka, like how his sexism from the show is different in this series, and it's more on how he treats Katara. So she tells him stop treating her like a girl, and he says well stop acting like one and everything. Just never taking like her into consideration, but of course, she's kind of they're both jumping the gun here and not thinking clearly. So one of my favorite lines in this episode where Katara decides to go like confront Jet about what Sokka's saying. She's like, I'm gonna get proof. He's like, of what? He's like, that you're, and she goes, that you're a jerk. And Sokka's just like, well, I don't need proof of that. And he's like, oh. I thought that was a little funny. So I thought that was a little funny moment. So she goes to meet up with Jet, and she finds out that they plan a bomb on the Mechanist, whose name is Sai in the show. And so they switch out his luggage with with a case that contains just blasting jelly, and they got long shot ready to blast it with like a fire arrow. And this is where like Katara, Sokka, and Aang, they go to stop everything. And let's close these out. They go to stop everything, right? And they run into Zuko and Iroh, who have been in the city, like in the skies. Zhao gets them in. So Zhao and Zuko are kind of working reluctantly together on both sides. Zhao, obviously, he has some resources that Zuko can use, but of course, Zuko doesn't want anybody besides them knowing that they're looking for the Avatar. And Zhao was already contacted, the Fire Lord and everything. He's in contact with Azula, as we find out in this episode. So he's doing stuff behind Zuko's back and everything. So Zhao gets them into Omashu, and they're like in the skies. And finally, they come across Aang, Katara, and Sokka, and Aang, tells Katara and Sokka to go, save the king and everything. So that's what they go do, and then we get that sequence with them on the delivery system and everything, which was pretty cool. So then we get like a cool little fight sequence with Aang and Zuko, where they're trying not to use their bending as much. Zuko, because he's a firebender and everything, so obviously people would freak out if a firebender was in the city. And then Aang, doesn't want to reveal, I guess, that he's the Avatar because he reveals he's an Airbender. That would mean he's the Avatar, but he's already walking around the city like in his air nomad clothes and like Airbender tattoos. So, not doing a very good job at hiding or anything. So there's a cool little fight sequence and everything, and I love the moment where they get caught up in these like hanging clothing garments, and they're like kind of like getting like all like tied up and everything in the garments and like swing each other and like they're using it's really cool. It was a really cool sequence, really fun sequence. um and then Zuko basically realizes that Aang has his notebook that he's kept for all these years, and it's basically like, you bitch, you read my diary, and then starts shooting fire at him. And this is where I think this is where the his cabbages get burned up, and we get the my cabbages line, if I remember correctly. So then, like, everybody's like, "Oh, there's a firebender! Where's firebender?" So Iroh comes and basically pushes Zuko away and causes a distraction by making it look like he's some crazy like um Fire Nation firebender. You know, he causes a distraction. He causes a distraction, letting Zuko escape, and Aang gets captured and everything. And Katara and Sokka they do save the king. So the episode kind of ends there, with Aang being brought into custody, and Iroh being brought into custody too. So, anyways, it's a fun episode. I felt like including Jet in the Air Temper storyline with the Mechanist and everything. Combining those two, I felt like worked really well. And this is one of the few places where it did work well. Combining some storylines. Episodes. We'll get into episodes 5 and 6 later on. I do have a lot of thoughts about those because I didn't think combining some storylines there didn't work as well and could have been done better. But this episode, is one that worked really well. So I really like this episode. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. Um, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. So guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please drop a like down below, leave a comment. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let me know. Do you think I should write down my thoughts first before doing my reviews? I just wing it like I did right here. But anyway, guys, hope you all enjoyed this video. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.